Welcome to More Than Music, Melbourne's favorite talk show for talking about anything, really. From collectives, designers, photographers, event promoters, and everything in between, More Than the Music shines a spotlight on Melbourne's creatives to find out what really makes them tick. And today, we're here with Ballerpreneur on Instagram, and as many affectionately know him as Dami Okadara. Speak Your Piece interview. It's going to be an amazing time for me to have this opportunity to speak to you because you are a man of many hats. On your Instagram alone, you've got like a million, billion accolades to your name. You've got clientele boosters, dental marketing, culture club, Web3, NFT stuff, as well as your most notable venture yet, which is Quasar Central. You've spoken on podcasts like Token Trophies, M1P and a Pod. I'm super blessed to have you in the studio.
Majid Nabda, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
No stress, man. Introduce the people, let them know just a little bit about yourself before we kind of get into the real meat of the interview.
Yeah, sure thing. So, Ballerpreneur here, aka Dami Okadara, multidisciplinary entrepreneur, athlete, semi-elite athlete in the basketball world as well. I like to do things, I like to create, I like to, chase my potential and build cool things. And really excited to, I guess, share the journey thus far. Just turned 23 a few months ago, so still young, but I guess, I'm a young guy on his way up.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the goal of More Than Music. We're here to interview people who are young, but have really condensed the amount of experience that they've had. There are people that haven't got the amount of lifetime experience that you've gotten since 17 to 23 that they've gotten in the whole 75 years they've been alive, And you're really blessed to have that opportunity, and we're really blessed to have you in the studio to kind of talk about that and enlighten people, younger people who might be watching and want to follow the same path as you. Now, your journey as a consultant and a marketing manager, entrepreneur, really takes you to a lot of places. And your start was like quite literally going door to door and putting in the hard yards yourself. The place I want to talk to you about, though, is your meeting with Gary Vee. How did that happen? And what was, as an entrepreneur, was that your big, like, I met Kanye West, I'm never going to fail moment?
Yeah, good question, man. So I haven't spoken about this story for a while. So what happened was my good friend Merlin Sunil, who's actually the head of social for Quasar.
Okay.
So shout out to Merlin Sunil. She got me a ticket to this conference, and it was an entrepreneurial conference. So it wasn't just Gary Vee that was speaking there. It was Grant Cardone.
Okay.
It was Kerwin Ray. I love Kerwin Ray. He's a big guy in emotional intelligence. I've learned a lot from him, and a few other big players in the space. So I go to this seminar with Merlin. I'm taking my notes. I've got my laptop. I'm 19-ish. No, I think I'm 19, nearly 20 at this time, and it's 2019. And basically, Gary Vee had a section of his speech where you could actually line up in a row and have one question to ask him.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So basically I waited in line and my turn actually never came about. So I waited patiently for about 40-50 minutes and everyone got their questions asked. Some people, he didn't like their questions, so he just roasted them and pushed them to the next side. That's part of his brand as well, being a bit of a dick. But it was fun to watch it in person. And then within like maybe 4 or 5 spots away, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get it to my turn, and my turn never came. So after he finished answering questions, he basically said, okay, come take pictures, but you have to do it from like the stage floor, not from the actual stage.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, okay, this is my chance. How can I finesse my way to maybe like get a picture with him that I could use for my marketing agency at the time? Because I was only 3 months into it. So everyone starts swarming to like the front of the stage. Security's holding them back so they don't get on the actual stage. And I let everyone like run. And then what I did was I went like around like the swarm of people. And I found this tight little gap between, to be honest, like these smaller people. And I kind of just nudged my way through the front. Turns out I bumped into my friend Tage, and he tells me to this day, like, bro, like, you fucked me up. Like, if you didn't bump me, I would have got a picture with Gary, not you, but he's a good friend of mine. And I bumped my way to the front. I'm like, Gary. And I forgot what question I asked him. I was like, can I take a picture with you? So he's like, sure. And he's super chilled. Like, I think what happens is once you're used to interacting with so many people, especially with people like Gary Vee, you get very numb to like a lot of intensity. So he somehow heard my voice when I said like, come take a picture with me. And I get my phone out, and as I'm getting the phone out, I was like, what's like your greatest piece of advice just for like a young teenager like me? Something along those lines. Yeah. And he's like, just be real and like just do not stop. Like be real and don't stop. You'll be all right. And then he did his hand thing. It's kind of corny. Yeah, he's Gary Vee's signature, and we took a picture, and I like blasted that over like my ads from like near the end of 2019 till like March of 2020. And yeah, man, like 6 months after that, I think I had my first $8,000 to $10,000 a month in revenue, and then COVID came, and it was great. I just started learning a lot of lessons from there.
Yeah, I mean speaks volumes about the kind of person you are and the kind of person you need to be a successful entrepreneur as well. You have to kind of find the cracks in what people need, what people want, as well as build your own niche and seek out the opportunities yourself. Because it's one thing to be like, okay, cool, there's an open opportunity for everyone to take, but you already know 50,000 people are going to go for that same opportunity. You know, you have to find the weird little angles and alleyways that you can kind of go through and navigate those things, and that's pretty much exactly what you've done with Quasar Entertainment as well. Like, there's a big spot in media that people want, like short form content that's exciting that people can watch is quite popular at the moment. You've kind of really nailed that with high quality content and a large volume of content at the same time as well, leading to you amassing over 25,000 followers and 15 million views across your TikTok and your YouTube alone, which is a lot of eyes at once. With Quasar, what do you think your biggest challenges were in having so many eyes on all of your content at one time?
Ooh, okay. So biggest challenge by having all these eyes on our content at the same time.
Yeah.
So I use this phrase all the time. Like my friends that are gonna watch this podcast are gonna laugh, even my brother. I'm an avid reader, right? So I've been studying in depth human behavior, human psychology since I was like 19. During 2020, in the COVID year, I read over 60 books, and I went through over 25 to 30 online courses.
Hey.
In that year, yeah. And how I'll link that to Quasar is because a lot of those courses, a lot of those books, each of them had a category. So they had to either fit in spirituality, history, society, health, romantic relationships, normal relationships, marketing, sales, whatever, NLP. The greater majority of those texts were psychology. So I started learning about the inevitable nature of how humans react to things in the business setting, in the relationship setting, interpersonal dynamics between men and women, all of those things. With Quasar, because it grew so quickly, and a large reason it grew so quickly was because of the awesome team that we have. We got, people like, Chan and Jack that are playing a massive role. Shout out to Chan, your girl's favorite comedian. Massive role in the content for that. Shout out to Merlin. You have Teresa on the videography and Yadu, who's just a killer editor. So we have a killer team. But another reason why it's been interesting is because when you grow that fast, even the people that want to support you, there's always an underlying jealousy, and it's human nature, which is fine, and which is why I've been very purposeful in actually genuinely getting people involved in roles that either pertain to Quasar or other things. And the reason why I start with the unfortunate topic of jealousy is because at one point, as you may have seen, our TikTok account actually got banned.
I saw that. I did see that. That was quite interesting. I was like, okay.
yeah. And, we didn't. People think it was the Andrew Tate episode that got us banned, but quite frankly, we actually stopped posting the Andrew Tate clips of that episode because we did initially get one warning. But as soon as we got that warning, that was all good. Like, we kept producing content for another 2 months without any other issues. So it wouldn't take, the smartest genius to realize that a large reason why we got taken down on that TikTok for that 2 hour span was because we had a lot of people actually reporting the TikTok account, just flagging it for no reason, which is fine. Some of them might not have been only been people in Australia, but maybe people that produce similar content overseas. So, obviously I'm a big planner, so I kind of was ready for that kind of thing to happen. And fortunately, in the next few hours, we were able to resuscitate the account and bring it back. And, it fortunately scaled, to north of 25,000 followers. But yeah, man, just sometimes, envy, the crabs in a bucket thing is real. But apart from that, other challenges of having these kinds of eyeballs is everyone feels entitled, to compensation. And trust me, if I had the deep enough pockets to compensate people that were regular participants, etc., I personally would. But right now, the best we can do as a team is fund the full production, fund the full distribution, make sure that we can expand into different cities in a fair manner, which is why we are even liaising with some of the bigger players in each city that we expand out to. What kind of content would they like? How can we make it friendly to them? How can we get the right people involved? And if it makes sense, how can we up the prize money, that kind of thing?
Exactly. And that's pretty much exactly what I was going to lead into my next question as well. I was going to say Quasar essentially being your most visible venture yet. Like, I know you have things with culture, but Quasar is something that exists outside of, I want to say, the Australian sphere of culture. There are people online on YouTube that have already started reacting to it from Canada, from the States, people that from non-English speaking countries as well. And I was like, how was kind of building the idea of Quasar, building that brand, having to trust the process and kind of deny the naysayers, part of building Quasar and saying, hey, look, this is going to get somewhere. There's going to be 1 million people watching this. Trust me. In terms of getting your not just your videographers and your editors on board at the start of the idea, but also the cast on board as well?
Man, that's a good question. It was look, quite frankly, it was very difficult, but I'll give context. So I started Quasar's a conglomerate. I started Quasar on paper when I was 20 in August 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, so not many people know that. But here's the feedback and here's the backstory. Initially, Quasar's focus wasn't going to be content. It's a multidisciplinary brand. So if you actually look it up on Google or on LinkedIn or whatever, it's actually a multidisciplinary creative conglomerate. Content was just the first visible part of phase one. The creative directors that actually helped me come up with the name Quasar and the branding and the color scheme, they've known me since I was 21.
Okay.
And they're actually in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually had inspiration from this guy that had done art for movies like the movie The Matrix. So I was learning from a lot of high-level people, just shutting my mouth, saying, "Teach me, please, sir, and I'll pay you for the consultation, I'll pay you for the learning." So I did that for about 1 to 2 years, just learning how to really create like a titanium conglomerate that wasn't just something that was going to come and go after 1 to 2 or 3 years, right?
Exactly.
And then once I deployed the plan for Quasar, the conglomerate, in which phases of that will come to fruition at the end of this year in 2024, we decided that we need to first of all be the content epicenter in Australia. So how did I now bring that into Melbourne? What I first did was like, okay, who are some people that I have a close friendship with, but also have really strong skill sets? So I reached out to some of the names that I mentioned before. I got them on a Zoom call. I gave them a mini PowerPoint presentation. I said, okay, this is what I've done so far. This is my 10,000 PowerPoint slides of studying, notes, trends. Like, there's a reason why we started with Tinder swiping. Like, here is the Google Analytics. Here's the data. Here's the projections. Here are our competitors. And here's what else is to come with Quasar. Fortunately, majority of them of the first Zoom call were like, okay, we're in. One of them wanted a bit more evidence. And I said, okay, no worries. Take your time. They ended up coming around. This was the hard part now. Now that I had the team of, who's the backbone of Quasar TV, which is the content side of things, Quasar TV, I now had to reach out to easily over 1,000 people in Melbourne to actually appear on episode 1 and episode 2. And a lot of that was, fortunately, because I'm in the events and club industry, Culture, Sweet Fridays, Paraisio now, I had some of a network to have validity behind my name to get this sort of project off the ground. But I was hitting up girls that I used to hang out with in the past. I was hitting up ex-homies. I was hitting up ex-best friends. I didn't even care. I just wanted numbers. I was hitting up strangers. Girls that I've been with before, I'd hit up their friends. They'd make, why hit talking to my friend? I'm like, look, I'm trying to start something. Then they block me. Like, I really... like, I was like, I don't even care. I just know this is going to pop. Like, you want to be in this, So I hit up over 1,000 people. And we had maybe like north of 80 to 100 cast agreements signed, because you have to have a cast agreement signed.
That's decent. And that speaks levels to it, just the amount of preparation that you've done, starting from the beginning of what you've done with Clientele boosters up until now. That's insane amount of work.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had to utilize and amalgamate the skills that I picked up from running clubs, from running my marketing agency that I still run now for now nearly 4 years. And I had to kind of put it into a smorgasbord for Quasar. But yeah, man, those first bunch of girls and guys that you saw in episode 1 and 2, half of them were on a Zoom call where I just told them, hey, listen, I know I only know about 80% of you, but this is the plan. This is why it makes sense. Any questions? And, from there, we got them signed up and 30% of them rocked up. And that 30% ended up turning into a lot more than that. And the rest is history. It's still in history.
That's amazing, because even still, I was going to ask you if you had any, I want to say, naysayers in terms of the kind of content that you produce. Like when you started the Tinder swiping videos or even the Andrew Tate discussion videos, were there a lot of people in terms of doubts? Because I know that kind of content is like something it's a very hot topic. But not only that, there is a lot of dichotomy between the ideals that exist on both sides of the spectrum when you discuss things like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how was it navigating content like that? But you've answered the question perfectly, going, you broke it down from bit to bit to bit to bit to bit, and that's an insane amount of preparation. I'm very, very, very excited to hear about that.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you. Like, it came down to, okay, so I'm a big believer in using frameworks to make my decisions, right? Yep. So I even tend to speak in frameworks. So when it came to selecting episodes, I knew that, look, as soon as we start this, there are going to be people all across Australia, not even in Melbourne, all across Australia that are going to try and create the same thing. And I actually told my team, we actually want that because when one boat rises, the whole tide rises.
That's true.
People don't think like that. They think, oh, if one club is doing this music, I can't do this music, or I want to be like, hold on. Australia is a big island. A lot of people don't care that much about Australia. Real talk. UK wasn't popping like that 50 years ago. Now people, UK drill. What does Australia really have? There's KSI in the UK. There's Chunks in the UK. In the US, you have Logan Paul. You got Gideon.
Philly as well.
You got Philly.
UK, like
but who notable under 30 do you think? Okay, boom, Australia. No one
That's
really.
very true.
Maybe people over 30, like the Hems, but like, no one really, right? So, what Quasar is doing, we felt, was we were establishing Australia as someone that could be a player on the map. Now, how do you get on the map? You have to find out, first of all, what's hot. There's this quote, I think it's something like, good artists copy.
Good artists copy, great artists steal.
Steal, something like that. But here's the caveat to that. You can steal the Tinder swiping content. You still have to be able to create enough diversity in the cast so it can pop off on TikTok. As good of a team as we had, what was better than the team that we had to create the videos was the diversity in the content. So, for example, in the video, in the second one, the 13 girls versus the one guy, part of the reason I suspect why, you know, Patrick and Davina scene popped off, or Rufaro and Patrick scene popped off, or Tamara and whatever scene popped off, is you're hearing a Filipino girl talk to a guy from West Melbourne. And it's about the same thing that we can all relate to. You know, a girl, you're on a date, a guy, you're trying to be, you know what I mean? So we can all relate to that. But you're hearing two different accents and you see it in Australia when you're expecting only Australian accents. So there's a lot of things that we wanted to do to steal, but to also add our own little spice to it, right? So when it came to, you know, the future episodes like the fashion and the Andrew Tate episodes, Jubilee and Cut have been doing Spectrum episodes for the longest time. We didn't just want to create another Spectrum video saying, you know, do men and women have a wage gap? A, B, like it's a bit robotic. And it's great. And it worked 5 years ago. But who was the most searched man in 2022 after Kanye or Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump? It was Andrew fucking Tate, bro. Exactly. So we were like, okay, boom. What do Australians think of that? Because Australians lean conservative. So it was having a finger on the pulse of culture externally and internationally, and then having that little spin-off of what would a tall poppy syndrome Australian have to say about all this? And I think that's part of the reason why people have gravitated to it, or at least been curious about it.
It's a very unique perspective that you do say, the tall poppy Australian perspective, because I was just about to talk to you about how Quasar uses it almost, I don't know if this is intentional, unintentional, but it really utilizes the perspective that Australia is a lot more multicultural than a lot of people let on, right? And that's not to say our media is multicultural, because it isn't, right? But when you walk around places like Footscray, places like Werribee, places like Tani, you don't see a lot of white people, right? And that's not what's reflected in our media very often. However, what Quasar has done is they've taken that, and you guys have kind of built something that represents Australia in the way that a lot of young people see Australia, and bring it to a different kind of light. And it's very interesting to see. I feel like that's the reason why it has popped off in terms of outside of Australia global content, because people are going, wow, Australians look like this? Australians, I remember even if you look at the Abba and Preach video that has Simba in it, and you can see him, and verbatim they say, yo, Australia has black people? And it's like, what was the kind of experience of seeing that kind of content pop off, knowing that you've started this with Quasar, and knowing that you're really making waves?
Yeah, man. Well, I saw. Well, first of all, I love Abba and Preach, and my boy Simba. Yeah, man. He actually sent me he called me and he's like, "Bro, it's surreal that Abba and Preach, my favorite YouTubers, you know." And Chun said the same thing. It was cool, but also for me, just the way I'm wired, like, even though I'm young, I've been in enough businesses where I've had really, really big highs and I've had really big lows. So when our account even got taken down for that 2-hour period, I was at Starbucks getting work done in the early AMs. And quite frankly, I was like, I didn't really, I think I even posted, like, it's okay, you have to have pain, like whatever. And we were just fortunate to have got it back as fast as we did. But so when I saw the Abba and Preach thing, I was like, this is incredible. But for me, it was just like, Fresh and Fit better be next.
That's true.
I want everyone now to react to it. And then there's dating channels now that are reacting to us. People don't know about them as much, but I've seen a few dating channels react to us, a few famous TikTokers. So for me, it's just like, okay, how can we feed the beast, but also how can we add substance? Because the brand's ethos, Quasar's ethos, is the power of human potential, right? So there's a lot of different types of content instead of just love-related content that we're creating in the next even 6 months. But yeah, it felt good, and it feels good to be making waves with your people, because literally, I'm not even in these videos. Like, I'm fortunate to be the ones that's able to orchestrate the thing, but if it wasn't for the diversity of the casts that we would have, these videos wouldn't really pop off. So it's actually a testament to Australia, quite frankly. So that's how I see it. Like, Australia has been that creative powerhouse, and I'm just fortunate to be part of the team that's projecting that to the world.
And it's really great that you say that. I wanted to ask you about a little bit about the view. You mentioned this briefly in saying that when one boat rises, the whole tide goes up as well. And it's like, is that how you viewed all of your ventures as far as an entrepreneur as well? Like, it's not just a solo project for yourself. It's not just a way for yourself to keep a livelihood. It's a way for you to improve everyone else's lives, and so therefore that improves yourself.
Now, yes. When I was 19, 20, I mean, I was just starting. Like, all I had learned for the most part was like, okay, like, especially with the certain business models I was in, a marketing agency, apart from your contractors, like, there's not really a partner that you need, at least from my experience. I felt that Quasar, because I had done so much preparation for Quasar since I was 20, I already had the conviction and the evidence that was going to pop. So I knew, okay, like, if I genuinely have the conviction that, in 10 years, this could be $1 billion play, then I might as well get like some really cool people involved, because everyone will eat. If I'm that confident that I'm going to eat, and maybe I'm already, having a few wins from a few other things, I might as well like genuinely share this. Like, even though I'm the owner on paper, there's shares to a few people that I've had solid involvement in Quasar from the beginning, like shares already in the company structure legally. So I think through maturity, I realized you get more enjoyment from sharing, and helping other people learn the skills that you've had to go through pain and agony, and you're able to expedite that for them, which spreads gratitude around.
Yeah, well, I mean, that leads me into my next question, which was essentially that I know from the available information you've got on your site, you can read your whole story from early childhood up until the current point in time on your website. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the hardships and success that have spoke to your incredibly high level of resilience and your incredibly high level of maturity that you bring towards all of your projects. You're a very calculated, well thought out, and well spoken individual. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the experiences that have led you through that? I know you spoke a little bit about Gary Vee and how that went through, but I feel like that's a very small example compared to going door to door and being knocked back day to day to day while trying to scale your business.
Yeah, man. Well, people have heard about, the door knocking, being 19, going to the city, going to Werribee, saying, my name is Darby, I run a marketing agency, let's talk. And I didn't really have much more to say, and I wasn't able to close my first client till after 3 months of approaching people all around Melbourne. I still remember going to like Toorak, wearing my dad's like blazer and like factory black pants. And I remember trying to shake this Arab guy's hand because he owned like some jewelry store or something. And I told him what I was doing. And he was like, what are you doing in my business? And I was like, well, I'm a marketing, agency owner, blah, 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 blah. And he said he wasn't interested. I said, no worries. I put my hand down. He looked at my hand, walked off. You have a lot of instances like that. But some of the more funny instances that I remember starting business young was you get involved because you're a bit naive in so many unique human experiences that you just didn't think about. Like, I remember being 19, 20 when I was involved in a network marketing scheme at one point. And I was at like a team meeting, and I'm going to not give an actual name for this guy, but we had a kid in our team, and, I'll say his name was James. And I get one of my team members gives me the phone. Give me the phone, and he's like, I'm James's dad. Are you Darby? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I've been looking for James for the last 10 years.
Sorry, what?
Bro, it's like, I'm 19 years old at this point, bro. I haven't said this online before. Well, yeah, bro. A lot of experiences like this. Anyway, so I haven't seen James for like 10 years. His mother took him away from me when we went to the Werribee Plaza in like 2011 or whatever. It was 2019 back then. And I was like, sorry, how did you get my number? And he's, well, I heard James looks up to you. So this is what happened. We went to the Werribee Plaza to watch a movie. I told him I'm going to go to the bathroom. The mother took him away. I haven't seen him for 10 years. Can you please get James to call me back? This is a real story, bro. I'm 19 years old at this time. What am I supposed to do? I've had maybe 1 or 2 girlfriends. Like, what do I know about a divorce? Yeah, bro.
Divorce, estranged children,
Bro, it was crazy. It was crazy. So there's experiences like that where I just had to up my emotional intelligence by force, because I was responsible for, managing other people, whether it was directly or indirectly managing emotions. And, I was fortunate to have, been involved in those kind of unique situations
Hey.
young.
That's what I'm
That's just
still
one,
trying
man.
to decompress
I
from
know.
all of that information because that is a wild story to just drop in the middle of. That's insane.
Me and James
Okay.
still keep in touch to this
You
day,
and James
man.
still keep in touch?
Yeah.
That's good news. That's good. I was
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
just
yeah.
about to ask you, how does it like going from, because I know we grew up in the same generation, myself and yourself.
Yeah, we did.
But what is it having people now, when you go back home, maybe to your parents' house, go and visit everyone, you're walking around, and do people like recognize you? Do people know? You've been in the newspaper before, for the local newspaper in like the Wyndham area. Is it common that you do what you do, and do people come up and be like, wow, my kid really looks up to you, or does that happen often?
I'm Nigerian, so in the Nigerian community, yes, I'll get. It actually reminds me, I should respond to someone, but like, sometimes they'll ask me for like sales advice. Since I was 21, I've been asked for sales advice a lot from particularly like younger kids, that are under maybe 21, and they're just like, how do I start a business, or like how do I develop sales skills? Which guru should I follow? Which course book? But do I get recognized when I started getting involved in the nightclub industry? Yes, a lot more.
Okay.
For the marketing stuff, whilst I was living in the West, somewhat, yes. But that was mainly from, high school stuff, high school friends from high school. But now, at 23 years old, in the city, I would say, yeah, probably 3 times a week, I'll get someone recognize or know me. And it can be for a variety of things, whether it's an old Clientele Boosters video, whether it's culture, whether it's Quasar. Quasar, I do, for the most part, try to keep my face out of it purposely for a reason, just because it's grown so fast. There's just safety concerns, quite frankly, that I have to be cautious of. But yeah, especially for like culture and stuff, I'll be recognized for a variety of things, by people in their 20s, 30s, and people that are teenagers. They'll usually ask for advice, type stuff.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I wanted to ask you as well, because you were on quite a bit of a warpath. You started Clientele Boosters when you were just after high school, so you would have been 18, 19?
Yeah, so 2 years after high school in 2019.
Yeah, so 2019 up until 23, that's less than 4 years, 5 years, right? You've been on a bit of a warpath, conquer the world, conquer Australia moment. And with the New Year's just over, it's the 6th when we're recording this, but this will come out on the 11th.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about not just the New Year's resolution, because I feel like I'm not a big fan of those, but a New Year's revolution. What are your plans for 2023 to take over Australia?
New Year's revolution's hard, man. I'm gonna start using that. Okay, so each year, I'm a big fan of Patrick Bet-David. Are you familiar with Patrick Bet-David?
No, I'm not.
So basically, I spend 2 to 4 months each year planning for the next year. So I try to have a draft month in the month before the year starts.
Yeah.
So I started 2023 in December last year. So the reason why I do that is because I want to test if all of my new habits that I want to adopt, new whatever, thinking patterns, affirmations, whatever strategies, are applicable in that following year.
Okay.
So each year I have a central theme. In 2020, my theme was Step Into Your Greatness. That was the first year where Clientele Boosters finally got some traction. I ended up in the newspaper. I was like, cool, well, that worked. Even though I didn't hit the financial goals, like I stepped into my greatness, great. 2021, the plan, when I first moved to the city, the theme of that year was embrace boundless mastery. And boundless mastery is about me just getting the reps up, doing even more cold calling, maybe not door knocking, but cold calling, just copywriting, reading more books, just going through failure, even if that meant that I was working another job whilst I was building my other stuff, right? 2022 was raw like a lion monster, because I felt like, obviously I was still learning a lot, and I still am to this day, but it was like, you've accumulated some skills, let's really like expand. Scale. And I feel like last year, especially in terms of events, Quasar, even Clientele Boosters, the level of the clients that I was dealing with, celebrities like Adekunle Gold, doing the marketing for Parisio, which had, I think, between 800 and 1,200 people for the New Year's Eve event in Turak. So that was a really successful event, as well as other things like dealing with politicians. Like, I feel like I just roared like a lion monster, and my phone cover is actually a female lion with blood on it. Sometimes people think it's a bit gruesome, but I feel like you just have to have those reminders, right? As Drake says, subtle reminders is key.
Yeah.
So this year's theme is dominion. And people think it's dominion as in geographically, but it's more dominion over myself will equal dominion over my themes and my ideas and my goals, right? So this year is just all about, okay, you have momentum everywhere now. I want you to have complete dominion over yourself. And if you do that, the rest should be fine.
That's amazing. That's really great. And on top of that, I wanted to ask you, what would be your advice to young entrepreneurs following the path that you're on at the moment? And what are some pitfalls that you would like them to avoid? I mean, obviously, as an entrepreneur, as a business marketer, your word is gold, right? So don't spoil them too much. It's still your business, but let them know what they can do.
Yeah. So in terms of things to avoid, um, it's going to sound like a contradiction, but shiny object syndrome. But here's why I say that now. For the first 2 to 3 years, from 19, even 18 to like 21, majority of really what I did was just marketing and sales. Like by this point, I've probably read specific to just marketing and sales. I would think at least 80 books that just relate to that sphere. Maybe in total, I've read a couple hundred books now by now. And I've probably taken at least 30 to 50 courses just on marketing and sales in total. So it wasn't until I'd reached a certain level of competency in that, which enabled me to not only have maybe the financial resources to now do something like a Quasar, that's bootstrapped, but it also enabled me to have the empathy to be able to, okay, understand what kind of character do I want to manage maybe this part of my business when I'm not there and I'm busy doing something else, or this part of my business when I'm in the gym playing basketball, because I still play basketball a lot. So that empathy and being able to really spend 2 to 3 years just mastering one or two things first, in my opinion, is the right way to go. When you're ready, you'll be able to, potentially spread your wings if you so decide to do so. On top of that, I believe mentorship is major. I wish if I was to go back, even though I took all those courses and watched all those YouTube videos, etc., when I was 19 to 20, I would actually pay someone money to teach me how to run a marketing agency when I was 19, 20. I wish I did that, because it would have saved me probably, 1,000 cold calls back then. And on top of that, it would have just made me faster in terms of, not losing as much money to the wrong people. I still have clients to this day that when I was 20 haven't paid me. You know what I mean? But those are some things that I would definitely recommend.
Awesome. And to finish up as well, I wanted to ask for Quasar specifically, what's next? Any collaborations planned that you can talk about? Is there any ideas for any more content that you wanted to go through and explore for the rest of the year?
100%. So what I can say is it will come out on Jan 11th, right? This video, Jan 11th. We are going to be in Sydney in mid-February for real life Tinder swiping Sydney version.
Okay.
So we're going to do a spin-off on that. There's going to be a bigger cast as well for each episode. I can't reveal too much, but there may or may not be Love Island people featuring.
That's a big one. That's big. That's big. That's big. Okay.
But there's a lot more to come. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And when I say a lot more to come, there's a lot more than content to come. I think a lot of Australia will be able to get a lot more involved in more than just viewing throughout 2023.
That's amazing. And finally, to finish up the show, we do a small segment here called Focus. And it's like, lets us kind of ground our guests, let them feel a bit more comfortable, and also let the people listening know what the kind of person you are as well. So I'm just asking if you could pick any three songs that have been getting you through the week, inspire you, get you to hustle, and really grind at it. You can take your time to pick. That's up to you. Just let me know.
Massaging Me by Future.
Massaging Me by Future?
Yeah. I'll be in the gym lifting that thing really fast, man, when I listen to Future. Rocket Ship by Future, and I'll give you one non-Future one. So I listen to music purposely. If I want to relax, I'll listen to like Tame Impala or some Daft Punk, right? But if I'm trying to get turned up, gets my energy up, then since I'm in a turned up mood and I have to hit the gym after this, what's it called? By Wale. I'll give you a different one instead.
You can use your phone, it's alright.
That's right. Box Chevy by Rick Ross.
Okay.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's old school Ross for you, yeah.
Sweet. Alright, let us know. Is there any stories behind any of these, or are they just the ones getting you through the week, make you nice and turned up?
No real story. Rocket Ship by Future, I just feel like ever since I started roaring like a lion monster, that's always been like playing.
That's been your theme in the background.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. Easy. Well, thank you for this interview. It's been really blessed to have you in the studio. Is there anything you wanted to say to kind of close it out for today as well?
I just want to say shout out to Nabda. This is the #1 podcast in the CBD. Follow it, watch it, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Bless, bless, bless. All right. Thank you for listening to More Than Music. We will be back with your songs in just 2 seconds.